Yeah, hello everyone. Welcome back. I'm really happy to have you back with me today. This is our next session, and we're talking about the future of workflow automation for businesses virtual summit. My name is Benjamin Schnau. I'm the host and moderator of today's session, and I'm really happy to have you on board because we have a beautiful lineup of speakers today. Very experienced people talking about the automation for businesses with this workflow, but we're also going to have a panel discussion towards the end. So stick with us. And before we go into the first conversation that I'm having, I also want to say a big thank you to our organizer, to Group Futurista, which is a leading global events company creating its overall, emerging technology summits where creativity fosters and innovations flourish. They believe in the power of networking, connecting innovative thinkers with the brightest minds from industries, academia, and also government organizations at a global level. And we have them here today for you guys, a well-known organization and platform for virtual events. And what we're going to discuss today, guys, is very interesting because, as you know, workflow automation is changing. We're having a lot of new technology coming into play, right? So we want to dive into that a little bit more in detail to give you guys have an idea, okay, what is possible today, but also how the future looks like, right? And workflow automation for businesses is the strategic use of technology to streamline and automate repetitive tasks, processes, and also workflows, right? By replacing manual effort with tools like AI, as we all know, I think many of us are using AI already, machine learning and robotic process automation, short RFPA, businesses can improve efficiency, reduce errors, and also enhance productivity. It empowers teams to focus on high-value activities, fosters better collaboration, and ensures consistency across operations, ultimately driving innovation and growth in a very competitive landscape today, right? So you as a company owner, you as somebody working within a company want to make sure that you're always up to date with this kind of technology, right? And the future of workflow automation, as we're also going to discuss today, for businesses represents a transformative leap in how organizations operate, leveraging advanced technologies like AI, as we discussed, machine learning, and also robotic process automation to streamline these processes and also reduce manual effort and boost efficiency, right? So I think it's all about efficiency for us. It envisions a world where repetitive tasks are seamlessly automated, enabling teams to focus on these strategic decision-making and innovation-making process. This evolution is reshaping industries, enhancing productivity, and also creating agile business environments equipped to adapt to dynamic market demands, right? A lot of stuff that we're going to discuss today, guys, as you probably realized already. Before we go into the first conversation that I'm having with our first speaker, I also want to give a big shout out to our gold sponsor, Nutrient. And Nutrient delivers the building blocks to accelerate digital transformation for modern businesses. Nutrient's SDKs, cloud-based document processing, low-code solutions for M365, and workflow automation platform transforms document ecosystems. The company powers thousands of organizations worldwide, including more than 15% of the global 500 brands, thousands of commercial businesses across 80 nations, and more than 130 public sector organizations in 24 countries. I mean, that's quite something, right? And backed by inside partners and based in Raleigh, North Carolina, Nutrient operates offices in England, France, and also Austria. Nutrient is on a mission to evolve the human experience with documents, and its products are the integration of industry-leading document and also workflow automation technology from PSPTF Kit, Operalis, Equiforest, Muhimi, and also Integrify. Guys, what can I say? Please check them out. Nutrient, a very great company, and also we're really happy to have them as our sponsor today. And now, without further ado, I definitely want to go in our first fireside chat, as we call it, right? And today it's all about empowering frontline workers through generative AI and workflow automation. And therefore, I'm really, really happy, and I had a quick conversation with him already at the beginning. I'm really happy to introduce to you guys Timothy Rashkin, Digital Workplace Strategy Director of Unisys Corporation. Timothy, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Yeah, we had a quick conversation already. For you, it's still very early, right? For me, it's a little later in the day. But definitely before we go into it, I definitely want to give you guys, also the audience, kind of a little bit of background about you, right? So Timothy has 25 years of experience in digital workplace with responsibilities for enterprise program implementation, large-scale service desk, and field service client delivery, device lifecycle management, business intelligence, but also solution strategy and development. Wow, that's quite something, Timothy. Here we go. And so
That's
we're
right.
going to have a little fireside chat, as we call it, right? So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that the audience sent in to us, right? And then we have obviously a brief conversation about these 5 questions. So the first one, I think very interesting. The first one is, with your experience, Timothy, in leveraging data-driven insights, how do you ensure that the data used in workflow automation truly aligns with business goals and drives efficiency at the end?
I love the initial question. And again, it's great to be here. I think for us at Unisys, it really comes down to understanding first what are the outcomes at the end of the day. People aren't looking to buy, I want to buy this tool. I want to buy this specific like way that we're going to solve a ticket or issue. It really does come down to like what operates, what drives us every single day. What are the people, what are the work groups in our environment, or the personas, that's the word folks like to use, and how do they need to operate effectively every single day. And so what is the data that is behind the scenes that makes those workers tick? What are the kinds of experience type data, telemetry data, environmental data that we can ingest and bring intelligent insights to bear to make them much more productive every single day? What can we be doing proactively, right, as opposed to being reactive? What can we do proactively, programmatically through RPAs, like you said before, the robotic process automations, to minimize any sort of downtime or heavy touch interventions that we have to do to support that workforce. So it all starts with understanding what are they actually trying to get done, and how can we equate those journeys that users would go through into points of time or points of experiences that we can measure and do something about.
Yeah, I really appreciate you say that. So basically what it also means from my perspective also, like, so even like talking to people first and getting an idea, okay, what's your kind of interaction today? What is your, let's say, more manual workflow, and how can we move that more into kind of an automated like environment, right? In ways. So
And
no,
being
that's really
practical about it. Yeah, being
yeah,
practical,
right.
because I mean, you could try to automate everything under the sun, but if you only
Yeah.
do that thing twice a year and you just
That's right.
spend thousands of dollars to automate it, then what was the point? It's
That's
a
so
no
true.
business case. So yeah,
No, that is very true. Which also gets me to the second question. So, how do you see experience management intersecting with workflow automation in the digital workplace,
yeah.
and what role does it play in overall business success?
Wow. Well, that's kind of the nexus question right there
Yeah,
to me,
that's
because
deep.
workers are they're workers are the lifeblood of the company at the end of the day, right? That's where the business value is generated, and we need to ensure that our workers are as productive as they can be to deliver that business value. And so the way that we look at this through kind of like our experience management office, for instance, is again, it starts with the data, it starts with the personas, it starts with their journeys, and how do we capture that data, right? What kinds of tools can we use, whether they're endpoint security tools, data collectors, ticket history, predictive analytics. We need to use all of that in order to focus our attention on what the real problems are going to be. And this kind of makes me think a lot about problem management, right? Problem management has always been one of those interesting ITIL areas. Like what is
Yeah,
that? What do we really do in that space? And so
right.
being able to drive more proactive problem management based on using real data and then driving these campaigns or RPA activities across a more holistic landscape of users can really drive a lot more value. And for us, we really think about the different tiers of experience management, right? Because historically, everybody's pretty familiar with like DEX XLAs, or the very device driven ones. But how do we elevate that game to think about not just their devices and all the devices, but the user themselves? Like what are their preferences? How do they go about their day? Are they a road warrior? Are they tethered to a desk? Like what are the things that they need at their fingertips to make sure the technology is working for them? And then what's the environment that they're operating in, right? Are they constantly in meeting rooms? Like, do they need to make sure there's good collaboration? Maybe other workers are hybrids. So how do they interact with each other? So it's really about thinking, like really decomposing that journey that they're in. Who do they interact with? What is the technology they need to leverage, both that they own and otherwise, to find all those different data points and measure them.
No, I think that's, thanks for saying that, by the way, talking about users at the end of the day too, right? So that's a great segue into my third question, actually. So could you provide an example, actually, where enhancing the employee experience, as we just discussed briefly, through workflow automation directly impacted productivity or business outcomes at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think one of the areas that I'm particularly fond of when it comes to end users, from their frontline worker readiness perspective, definitely play frankly into the device life cycle as well. So if you think about a user's PC, which is how they get their work done every day, a lot of folks get used to things that aren't really the best, right? We like to call that kind of suffering in silence. And
Yeah.
especially if you've got a hybrid or remote worker, not only are they suffering in silence, but they're like at their homes and it's out of sight, out of mind sometimes from a support perspective. And so at the very beginning of that, being able to collect this kind of telemetry data, understand what are the application requirements of those users, how do they operate every day, what's the performance saying, allows for us to have some amount of proactive awareness around their device performance. And then what we could do with that data is drive what we like to call kind of more intelligent refresh planning, for instance. And what that really means for us, and that's all automated as well, where we can use data aggregators for all the different kinds of data that we can collect around the endpoint, around the user, around telemetry data, and make much more dynamic decisions, automated dynamic decisions that are integrated from an IT service management perspective too, around, yeah, I mean, maybe that user wasn't due up for a refresh until a year later, but frankly, right now there's big problems. So how can we accelerate break fix activity? Or maybe they're not even in the right device anymore. Let's replace them, accelerate the refresh, bring back the old device, refurbish it, get it back out into the field too for some other persona maybe. And so we can maximize the user's happiness and productivity and the device life cycle at the same time. But if you're an organization that has thousands and thousands of devices, being able to keep your eyes on an individual device and an individual user performance, especially if they're hybrid, is going to be much more difficult to do unless you're kind of aggregating all this data and driving a lot more workflow automation around what's the expected standard that a user should be able to perform at, and where are there problems in that you can address more proactively. And we've
Yeah,
been doing that a
that's a
fair
very
amount
good.
with different clients for us. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. I mean, even nowadays, talking about like with people working remotely, right? So even like when it's like, okay,
Yes.
you're not always not everybody's always in the office, so you can't even have this kind of very
Exactly.
like in-house, on-site, face-to-face interaction.
Right.
So how do you still want to make sure that you can kind of
Yeah.
like, like deliver to every employee in the best timely manner with the best technology possible,
Mhm.
right? So I really appreciate that you saying that. And which also now gets me to the next one. What are some of the key metrics or even indicators that you track to ensure the success of that kind of service delivery in highly automated environments? So what, especially maybe even talking about remote
Yeah.
environments, how do you guys even make sure that you know what's going on internationally?
Yeah. Interesting. So there's different elements to that too, right? And it shouldn't always be asking people, right? People get this paralysis
Yeah,
about the amount of
yeah,
surveys that are coming their way. We need to fetch this data and pull this data to us. And there's
yeah,
different kinds of data, right? Everybody's got SLAs. That's kind of table stakes. And frankly,
right.
even the beginning of some XLAs are starting to be a little table stakes in the traditional areas, but being able to collect the telemetry data around device performance, stability, frankly, resilience, right? Being able to use resilience data to say, is this device in its guaranteed state, essentially, of is all the policies, are the drivers there, are they on the right application? Being able to track that kind of data and make sure that the environment as a whole is positioned to the right compliance standard that's performing the best is some of the things we do within unified endpoint management in tandem with experience management. Um, Frankly, even from how they engage IT support, right? So, how do we measure ourselves as a managed service provider for
Yeah,
our service desk capabilities, for our field services technicians? Because it's about how can we drive resolution more quickly through deflection, drive it left around what can we do with augmented reality? What can we do with touchless experiences like integrated asset lockers and virtual tech cafes? So, how do we drive down the physical intervention that we have to do in the environment and allow for more and more of that to be done on demand from a user anywhere on the planet that there may not be a physical person there? So, how do we measure that? How do we measure how quickly they can engage those resources without, again, that physical intervention on the ground? That's one of the other things we really look at a lot, is how many times are we doing that? How quickly do we get that done compared to like a traditional activity? Um, and there's a lot of thinking there too, right? These are investments that have business cases to them, but there's also the initial work of, from organizational change management perspective, are people adopting it? And if they're not adopting it, what strategies are we using or could we be using to help them adopt it? So, and then where are the less effective contact channels too that we want to try to get away from over time, that are much more unstructured and won't help the user get to the resolution as quickly as other channels. So there's a lot of different things like that that we look at.
No, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, it's interesting. We talking about like different aspects of technology and what people might be using at some point right now already, but also in the future.
Yeah.
But also now getting to my last question here, right, which is also very interesting to me, obviously, as someone who wants to use this technology, right? So what kind of strategies do you actually use to develop and even then mentor this talent in the
Yeah.
context of this rapidly changing environment, right? So how do you even go about this?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a fundamental element to this a little bit too, where people, may think, is AI going to take away my job? I mean,
Oh,
I think that's a
yeah,
fear.
that's
It's like
always coming.
AI and generative AI
Yeah,
and
yeah,
workflow automation. I mean, the way that we really look at this is it's not a job that's being taken away. It's like the people that know how to leverage AI and know how to leverage workflow automation, leverage generative AI, are the ones that are going to be more productive over time and have an edge compared to their peers, because they can drive more activity, more value added activity than some of the typical busy work, right? And but it has to be fit for purpose. I think about some of the licensing that's available in certain areas from certain key partners out around the globe, and not everything needs to be this bucket, right? Some of it can be, well, for what you need to do day by day. If it's in like a collaboration session, are you a knowledge worker and a productivity creator? Are you a collaborator? Like, thinking about, what do I need to do every day? What does my workforce need to do every day? And then forming that around what do they need to do, and what is the technology that gets them there that's fit for purpose? And then training them, right? The OCM strategy we talked about, even within our company, when we first started adopting things like Copilot, for instance,
yeah.
there was a lot of training about, like, hey, here's a tip, tips and tricks, like so many different campaigns of content for how you can learn. We have to think
Right.
about the different ways people can learn, and then how do we measure that and show success to show the business case. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, no, I really appreciate that. I mean, you're totally spot on, by the way. I think, yes, this question comes a lot, and you can sometimes feel the fear of some people. Oh my
Yeah.
God, AI is coming into play now, is maybe taking my
All
job.
right.
This is always in people's mind. I can tell, I can feel it. But you're totally spot on by saying, like, yes, but if you do not learn how to use these tools, right, you basically not going to be as maybe valuable to a company than somebody who is now able to use all these technologies in the future, right? Because it comes anyway. The
Yeah.
future will be this kind of technology. So you want to make sure that you connect the dots, being able to perform and use those tools more efficiently. So I totally agree. I appreciate you
Yeah.
pointing that out. And by the way, we have some questions coming in from the audience listening in right now. And there's a couple I wanted to read back to you, if that's okay. And it
Hmm.
really talks still
Yeah.
about AI. So but also now connecting it to customer service on the front line. So how does generative AI help improve customer service on the front line? How do you feel
Yeah.
about
Oh, I love that question. So,
it?
so I'll give you an example for
Yeah,
us, right, from Unisys with our managed
yeah,
services that we do, like our service desk. So we have, probably almost 10,000 frontline workers of our own between the service desk and field services. And around the globe, 100 countries worth of support. And so a lot of our clients, require support from an IT perspective in just about any language you can think of. And so if we have when we bring on a new client and we're bringing on new service desk agents, one can imagine there's a difference between a service desk agent that's been 4 weeks on the job or 2 years on the job, right? And we like to do a mix of how we deliver services. And so our objective is to ensure there's a consistent experience regardless of who the end user is reaching out to. And if there's ways that we can augment new agents or freshers right out of college or whatever we're doing, the faster that we can get them up to speed to appear, the more effective they'll be and the happier the client will be at the end of the day and the end users. And so one of the ways we do that is through generative AI capabilities where we have all the knowledge in the world. How do we properly curate that, create that using generative AI based on gaps in knowledge? So we do all these analyses to figure out where are the gaps in knowledge today based on ticket history. How can we automatically generate that knowledge instead of wading through thousands and thousands of tickets with knowledge managers? All that bubbles the surface super quickly through knowledge curation. And then when the user engages us, whether it's a virtual agent situation from a voice or chat perspective, or through the live agent, this knowledge is being constantly bubbled to the surface. So, for instance, that 4-week agent, maybe this is something that they usually haven't had to typically do. They could be spending a minute or two trying to find the right article, the right page, all this stuff. Whereas the bot, when it's like a rear view mirror or side view mirrors, essentially where it's coaching the agent real time and saying, based on trolling the conversations, like, hey, it's this article, page 5, citation 12, bam, like right away. So it really bubbles the knowledge quicker, it accelerates the resolution, it drives more consistency. So we're looking for using Gen AI and AI capabilities to augment our staff to drive uh, enablement, education, acceleration. So that's the way that we generally look at how can we augment our frontline workers.
No, I appreciate you say that, which is already great, by the way, because you already kind of got into the second question in a way, which is great. So
Okay.
maybe just a couple more points if you have. So how can this
Mm.
workflow automation make the day-to-day task of frontline workers even more efficient? I mean, you touched on a couple of things already, but maybe you have an
Yeah.
example maybe on hand that you want to share.
Yeah. There's a few ways, depending on if you're talking about productivity issues versus collaboration. I think one of the obvious ways from a collaboration perspective is how are they engaging with others, right?
Yeah,
How quickly, if you got to be 5 different places at once, how can you
yeah.
achieve that? From things like work note summarization, meeting summarization. That's one area. But then the other is from a self help perspective. Everybody has different things that they need to get resolved, and they can't just wait around for a physical person on the ground to help them. Maybe it's a overnight worker, from an overnight shift. They have an immediate problem. How can we get them support right away, right? They can be reaching out to digital agents. They could reach out to 24/7 agents through virtual tech cafes or things like that. When they reach out to the agent, any sort of RPA action is like, oh, you need access to this, or oh, this driver is a problem. Like, what's the RPA activity, the catalog that already exists that folks can leverage, where it's like, okay, I understand what your problem is. This is the bot speaking. We can fix this for you right now. Do you agree? Hit the yes button, bam, there's the RPA activity or any sort of resilience solutions that we have in place. And again, they're back off to the races without having to wait around for anybody at whatever time of the day it might be. So it's really a combination of how do we use these workflow automation capabilities to support a user from a support perspective or requests in tandem with how do we make their ability to do their job every day a bit easier, especially when you're collaborating with others.
100%. No, I really appreciate you say that, especially when it comes to collaborations, right? When it comes to customer facing, when it comes to that customers even still feel the human interaction,
Yeah.
but being now supported by AI and technology like that. And we talking
Yeah.
a lot about all the positive aspects of it. Obviously, most of it is obviously positive, but I still have to ask the question because somebody asked, so what are the potential challenges businesses might face when implementing AI and workflow automation? So what's your experience on
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of pitfalls here, especially in an industry that's frankly so new. I mean, where were we a
Yeah,
year ago with AI, for instance? Where were
that's
we a
right.
few years ago with workflow automation? Where will we be 2 years from now, 3 years from
Yeah.
now, 6 months from now, right? So this world is evolving.
Mhm.
And not, what I would say is a lot of companies, they're not AI companies necessarily, right? Especially in IT. Like everybody has their purpose as a company that they need to deliver day in, day
Right.
out. And so There's probably, I mean, I don't know how many AI or workflow automation companies there are that are out there at this point, and then especially in the AI space, how many of them will actually exist a year or two from now is a whole nother question. So it's, for us,
Yeah.
it's about practicality. Like, it's not about, oh yeah, I got to buy this AI thing, or I need this on this PC right now. It's like, what practically can you actually do with AI right now, or workflow
Yeah.
automation right now, that actually has an ROI associated to it and is
Mm.
practical to implement? And then who's the right partner to work with, unless we're going to develop it in house. And we've done that a mix ourselves. We've developed some things in house and we partner other things. So
Yeah.
taking a practical build by partner strategy for the things that have a legitimate use case and there's decent volume there, you have to start with that at least. And then if you are partnering, how do you find a partner that has a legacy of delivery and experience that's not just ideas, right? It's like these are real things that are actually delivered, that have client success stories, have ROI. So it's kind of this 1-2 punch of, what do I need that's practical, and how do I work with somebody, if I'm not doing it myself, that has a decent track record historically that you can put trust in to invest your money into.
No, I really appreciate you saying that. So I think it's a very like a realistic approach, which is great that you guys obviously want to work with customers with your own, customer base, obviously, but making sure that you understand, okay, this is something that we are being challenged on right now. And then you guys coming in, obviously saying, yes, but we can help you with that. But then on top of it, in 6, 12 months time, we can build on top of that foundation that we create with you guys. So I like that. That's really awesome.
It's yeah, it's a journey, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's the
100%.
biggest thing. It's like, nobody's going to be AI everything in a
Yeah,
month or two or three or 6 or 12. So it's like,
that's right.
again, it comes down to, what's that journey, like what makes sense now, what could make sense
Yeah.
long term, is there a long term? So yeah. Mhm.
That's right. Like certain milestones. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Timothy. I really appreciate
Yeah,
that.
happy to.
I mean, you're gonna still join us for the panel discussion, right? So you're
I
gonna
will
stick
be,
with us
yes.
for a little while. So thank you so
Yes.
much, Timothy Rashkin, Digital Workplace Strategy Director at Unisys Corporation. Thank you so much, Timothy. I'm gonna see
Thank
you
you, everybody.
probably in a couple of, yeah, maybe 45 minutes, I would
Yes.
say. But
Sounds
enjoy your
good.
coffee then, I guess. See ya. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. No worries. Bye bye. And yes, guys, we're not stopping. We're moving on right to the next keynote speech now. And now we're talking about automating document-centric workflows, driving efficiency, security, and compliance. And I already mentioned to you guys our gold sponsor, Nutrient, right? And now I would like to welcome Tom Martin, Director of Customer and Partner Success at Nutrient. And Tom is the Director of Customer and Partner Success at Nutrient, a leading provider, as I mentioned earlier, right, of workflow automation solutions. A U.S. Navy veteran, Tom brings a disciplined, strategic approach to driving operational efficiency and customer success. With a passion for streamlining businesses, processes, and fostering strong partnerships, he helps organizations maximize the value of automation. His leadership and expertise have made him a trusted voice in the industry. Tom, hello, welcome to the show. I hope you're well. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you hear us, Tom? I can see you.
I
Yes,
can, yes.
yes, here
Hi
we
there.
go. Hey, how you doing?
I am good. Thanks for having me. I'm
Of
excited to be
course.
here. That was a great introduction. I'd just like to say, just real quick before we go into it, just who I am, what Nutrient is, because we get asked that quite a bit. Who's this Nutrient team? And actually, Nutrient came from
Of course, I
a
appreciate it. Thanks so
conglomeration. Yes. So Nutrient actually came from PSPDF Kit, you might have heard of them, Aquaforest, Mohimbi, or Integrify. And I actually came from the Integrify world, and now we've rebranded as Nutrient. And we're taking all the great tools and we're combining everything into workflow automation. And myself, I actually used to be a customer of workflow automation previously. And then I came onto this side, and I've been fortunate enough to work with our customers all around the world. And it's been amazing to see the advancement in not only technology, but also to see the different challenges that we've run into. And automating these workflows, um, sometimes kind of having customers a little afraid to show us behind the curtain. How do we currently do things?
Yeah,
And I always try to reassure the customers, hey, you know what? Whatever you have, we've seen it worse.
right.
And that's the fun part, is just to start that journey with the customers, from where they are to where they move forward. So I have a quick little presentation I'd like to run through with everyone.
Please.
Feel free
Yes.
to ask any questions along the way. Stop me along the way as you need to.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll go from there.
Yeah. We might bombard you at the end.
Oh, no worries whatsoever. Let me just make sure that
Appreciate
I can
that.
share my screen here quick.
Yeah, you good. Yeah, I'll let you know as soon as it comes up.
All right,
Yes, you got it. There we go.
perfect.
Beautiful. Thank you.
All right, so what we're going to be talking about here is driving the efficiency and security and compliance while automating the document-centric workflows. And it seems like a lot, but really what it comes down to is how do we make the things that everybody does day to day much more efficient, secure, and compliant? Because in the world we live in nowadays, I can't tell you how many times I've been told about, hey, do you have this sort of report? Hey, how do we track that? We're being audited for this. Or quite honestly, a lot of times we hear is we get a lot of oops. Somebody, is dual entering something and it get entered into something. So what we want to do is eliminate those manual tasks that help things out. So we're going to start going at it as far as, why do customers and why do companies look to automate processes? And a lot of times it starts off with, hey, we're growing. We're going from a mid-size to a larger organization. We need something to help us out. And the cost and efficiency sometimes of just throwing labor at things back and forth or isn't the most efficient way to make things done. And I'm not going to read everything through it, but you can understand the transparency, the compliance, and security on every aspect. These are different reasons, or a lot of times it's a combination of both, or a combination of these things that make people say, we need a tool, we need to do this better, or we know there's a way to get out there to do this better. And that's where organizations like what we have, individuals that we have on our team help you to get to that point. And I can't tell you how many times we've actually had it where customers are like, hey, we're growing, we need to do something about this. And they go out and they buy the software previously to really documenting their processes. So I'm going to also walk through a few lessons learned, kind of call outs to say, hey, make sure before you do this, you want to look for X, Y, and Z. Um, An easy way for me to kind of talk through this is onboarding an employee, a new employee, and everybody's been through this as you've been hired at your current company, previous companies. I can tell you about my experiences that I've had, but everybody's walked through what that looks like as a new employee. Every organization deals with it. Um, I can tell you, not at this job, but at a previous job, I was hired as an IT individual. And I came in my first day, I was so excited, ready to go. I had to wait 2 weeks to get my computer. 2 weeks. So my first impression at this new company that I was so excited about was waiting for 2 weeks to get a computer to be able to really start doing my job. Now I could do a lot of other things in those 2 weeks, but that was my first impression. So as you start thinking about this, and as we kind of walk through what onboarding a new employee and automating that, what that looks like, start thinking about your experience. Start thinking about the experience that your company currently has, and all these things that we talk about through this, you know, can it be done better? Can you challenge that process? So as we start walking through this real quick, we'll just kind of walk through it and keep that in the back of your mind. So what we want to do, the goal of automating onboarding is to boost that retention, your productivity, and you want to make it cost effective. Why do you want to repeat these things over and over again? Especially if your organization is somebody that hires seasonal or temporary employees, or you have areas where, hey, we have maybe interns that come in, but they're still going to need to be onboarded to a certain way. So you start thinking about that. And if that's being done manually or you're recreating the wheel every time, what's being lost? How much time is being wasted? There's lots of different ways to improve it. And that's where automating some of these things really comes in handy. And there's just a few quick stats on this. The one that really sticks out to me is the 50%. The 50% people here where if they experienced greater onboarding, experience, you know what? Their productivity is increased 50% right off the bat. And then the other one to take a look at there is the 58%. You're more likely to keep that employee over 3 years if they had that onboarding experience that was wonderful. It says, hey, this company has it. They're in tune. They're ready to go. They want to make an impact on me. So a lot of different ways to look at it. A lot of different ways to say, hey, you know what? onboarding just itself. And I know I'm just picking onboarding right now, and this could be used a lot of different places, but I felt like this would resonate with a lot of different companies and a lot of different people, but just because we've all been there, we've all gone through there, good, bad, or indifferent. So one of the things that you're looking at is increasing your productivity and the efficiency that you have in your onboarding process. Why do I need to recreate this? A lot of times what's occurred to me, especially when we're working with new customers, is it's like a fire drill every time. You know, the person, oh, I have this person starting on Monday, and you're telling your team Friday afternoon. They're not going to have the time to get everything ready and prepare and do all these things. So what happens is if you start to standardize what you do, it makes life so much easier for everybody, not only internally, but for that person walking in. You know what? It just looks like this well-oiled machine going on, and it makes life so much simpler for everybody. The quality and safety, you're making sure that you're not missing different steps. Hey, do they have access to everything they need to? Or do they have access to things that they don't need to? This way is going to ensure that they do. And then the other part of that is that you're going to be reducing the costs because your labor intensive items that you're currently having to do over and over and over again is being done. You're automating that. You're making it much more efficient. So when it comes to, internal operations, these are the 4 key areas. You want to share the information. You're going to follow the standard process. You're going to have the streamlined communication, and that's a big one. And then at the end, you want to assess how that process did. And we're going to walk through quickly each one of these different areas, and you'll kind of understand a little bit more about what we mean and what we're looking for there. So for sharing information, the big one here is, confirm when they begin, and then all the different areas that you need to know to make it more efficient throughout your organization. Internally, what can we do to set ourselves up for success so that we're not constantly making a fire drill for the rest of our team because they're out doing their own work as it is. And then to that new employee, are they getting everything they need? Not only when they first walk in, but are there communication and information that they need to know before they start off? Maybe they need to know, hey, when you come in, you're gonna have somebody taking you to lunch, or hey, this is what we do for our break times, or hey, next week, we have a potluck dinner, whatever it's gonna be. Share that information and make sure that they everything is set up because you can't over communicate, especially to a new employee, right? And especially to your team if they're coming in, people need to know. So you make sure that all that stuff is set up in advance to get your team ready to go, as well as your new employee that's coming on. The next one is going to be pretty standard. You want to make sure that you standardize that process and you follow it. You want to be able to define what that success looks like. That's a big one too, because what does this look like? Are you going to be able to accomplish every if, and, or but? Probably not. Sometimes there's going to be areas that you're going to have to deviate out of it, but you're going to learn from that. Oh, we didn't think of this. We thought we had it documented, or maybe our business has evolved. We've added a new location, new division. So we want to make sure that we adapt and evolve as we're going through there. But as long as you have that standard process started, you know what? That's a great first step. And we tell all of our customers all the time when they're like, oh, it's Jimmy's process or John's process. We really don't know what that looks like. Great, no problem. That's when we need to go and get all that information out so that we can standardize this, because when Jimmy or John wins the lottery and they decide not to come back, you don't want to leave the company in a lurch. So this is what we want to do. Follow that standard process. Streamlining the communication. This is a bigger deal than a lot of companies really understand. You know, who needs to know the information and what do they need to know? That's another one where, especially in the small to mid-size organizations where you may have people that have been there for a long time and you get the standard, we've always done it that way. That's one of the things where, do they really need to know, or do they just want to know because, they've always just been in the know, but does it affect them in any sort of way? And then how do they get informed? Is it just through an email, or do they have action items that go with that? And then as you're going through this, what happens if so and so isn't there? How do you have the plan to say, we don't want the entire process to stop, especially on an onboarding process if somebody's on vacation, out on leave? How do we make sure that that process continues all the way through? And you want to make sure that you've addressed all those different topics as you start going through this, especially when we're talking about just for onboarding right now. if somebody from this department or division isn't there, who's that backup that's running that? Have we confirmed what that's going to be? And have they been trained in what they needed to know? Finally, once that process is completed, you want to ask yourself, how did we do? Was it good? Did we assess what the time frame was? Do we make sure that all those steps were followed? And this is the big thing, is that you want to look at it and say, can we do it better? Did it prompt the team the way that we wanted to know? Did we get everything completed at the time? Did we give our team members enough time to do the goals or the tasks that they needed to do to make sure that we're successful? Then you look at that every time. And what I've always been under the impression on is that great people want to be measured. So if we give timeframes out there, they know what's expected of them. If they've been trained up, they'll get it done because everybody wants to be successful and everybody wants to have the first employee or the first impression that employee comes in to have a great first day. And this is setting it up because you don't want to let your team down. So if you think about it, this is just a very, very simple process that everybody does, right? But you want to know um, who owns it. That's the big one. Who's the right expert for each individual spot? If it's more complex, who's going to handle those tasks? Is it a resource waste? Are we wasting money right now? Labor, resources? Are we just throwing labor at things just because, oh, we don't have enough time to do it? And then the big one is, how can we automate this process any further? And that's a big one, especially, as we just heard a little bit ago. Last year it was different, let alone 5, 10 years ago. How often are you looking at your processes to say, well, we don't do that anymore, but our process hasn't changed, even though our business has evolved. And when we're working with customers all the time, it's really fun to see that everybody's excited. Hey, we just put out this process. It's really great. And I tell them, I'm like, this is amazing. Let's celebrate this. But guess what? This is part of the journey. We haven't actually completed it yet because your business is going to constantly evolve. So the process has to evolve with it. In addition, your software can evolve with it because some of the tools that are available today, you know what? They weren't there when you first put in that process. Or a year from now, who knows what kind of tools will be there? I could see it in the roadmap. And we want to make sure that we incorporate those into our process to make us more efficient so that we can do more and more efficient workflows moving forward. So a lot of keys, and this is what I tell the customers all the time, especially when they come and they say, hey, we really want to buy the software. I'm like, that's great. We can help you out, no problem. Have you documented your processes? Well, kind of, I don't know. I think we have it. All right. Well, let me help you out with that because we help out all the time. First thing I tell everyone all the time is you need to tell me what is the end goal? What are you trying to get out of this process? What are we trying to solve? Once you have that in mind, great. Let's work from the back. We know where we're trying to get. How do we get there? Never assume anything. The biggest fault that I see all the time is somebody that does this all the time, or maybe they've done it for years. It's easy for them to go, well, I hit this button and I go here and then it goes over there. Okay, great. Tell me what that really means. And if you have to ask why, and then you ask why again and ask why again, you just keep asking until you understand and you make sure that the entire team understands as well. Because once you have that full clarity, sometimes you could pull it up that this is what our workflow looks like to the entire team. And this might be the first time that entire team has seen what it looks like. And once they see it, you can kind of see light bulbs go off or, well, actually I did this, or actually I did this. Or sometimes you might even have people say, you know what? If I answered these questions right here at the beginning, it might save us a step down the way. So it's really exciting when you see those light bulbs go off and people get excited and energized about the workflow because they say, wow, I want to take kind of ownership on this. And once they feel like they own that process a little bit, it's amazing. It's amazing to see the work that gets done and the people that get energized about using it. And no longer do you have that fear of, hey, workflow is going to take away my job. Or as you heard before, there's fear. I'm going to kind of guard what I do because I don't want them to know what I do. They're going to take away my job. That's not the goal. The goal here is to make your job easier so that you can focus on the bigger things. And that's really, one of the things that a lot of people say. And when you see the address any misunderstandings, when people that aren't involved in the process here, oh, we're getting a new software tool and it's going to be workflow automation. Automation, a lot of times right now, still has the automation. They're going to try to automate my job and take it away. That's not the case. And you just have to help them understand that. And then show them how this is going to really help your job, help you improve. And as the organization, it's going to grow the company. Integration and automation. That's why we're all here. Everybody loves it, right? So this is one of the things where, hey, understand the different tools that go into it. How can you use AI? That's the big one lately. 3 years ago, nobody mentioned AI. We've worked with companies all over the world. 3 years ago, nobody said a thing about AI. It was just in movies and it's kind of out there, but nobody really understood it. Now we have AI tools moving into our workflows. You hear it all the time as far as, even when something like Chat GPT, is this email really from this person or did they Chat GPT me? Um, so you got to think about how we're going to use it, AI and different tools that come in there. The behavior change, that's one that I just talked about a little bit. You know, your initial challenge when you put out a workflow to change that process isn't the actual software itself. It's changing the mindset because if they've done something, you have individuals, hey, I've done this for the past 10 years, 5 years, even 2 years. Your first change is you're changing the way that person's done work. It's going to be scary. Sometimes you're going to get pushback. I've seen it many, many times, and I can give you story upon story about the evolution of what that mind shift has been. But it's so rewarding, not only for you or for me to see it, but for that individual and that company to just see that mindset. Because once they get past that fear and you help them walk through it, they get it and they're so excited. And those are usually your biggest advocates. And that's where I say where you have to understand your audience. You know, I may talk to this person one way and show them a different way, where I may have to go to another person 3 or 4 times to really help them walk through it. Hey, even though the software's in the cloud, if you want me sitting next to you just to kind of show you what it does, whatever you need. Some people need more hands-on than the other people. And then the other part is you can't have um, an entire company giving you feedback because you'll never get going. And that's where you see that not only the aim for the progress, but or excuse me, aim for progress, not perfection. Because if you think about it like this, when I went out and bought a new car, you know, I'm going to go buy that car. I love it. Well, wait a minute, that car just drove by. Let me look at that one. Oh, this car has this. Let me look at that one. If you're always looking for perfection, you're always going to be chasing it. We're going to get there, but software, especially when it comes to workflow process, is an evolution. As I mentioned many, many times before already, is that it's always going to change, not only because of your workflow changing and the tools that are being brought in there, but your company is changing as well, always evolving, growing, adding different people, different products, different locations. So you have to look for that progress and understand that, look, I can listen to this feedback, but you have to be firm. Hey, we're going to make this decision. We're going to go live with this right now. I'm going to take that feedback in and let's put this into version 2 or the next phase of this. Don't lose it. Don't dismiss them, but just understand that at some point we want to put this out there so that you can start changing the habit that you have with those individuals. And this is, I can't tell you how many times I've talked about this with all my customers because they look at it and I kind of mentioned before, hey, I'm kind of shy. I don't want to show you how we do it, or yeah, we're embarrassed. This is how we do it. No worry. However you've done it, your company's been successful up until this point. We're not trying to reinvent what you've done. What we're trying to do is challenge your business, challenge yourself to utilize tools out there that can make you more efficient, grow your revenue, and grow your customer base. That's what we're trying to do. Improve everything that you can do. And what we always try to tell our customers is, you know what, the more open you are, the more we can help you out, the more we can take your business to the next level, which is what a lot of these customers are looking to do. It's it's scary, especially when it comes to the AI stuff. People just don't have a full grasp of it. I don't have a full grasp of it. I'm constantly learning and understanding, saying, wow, it can do that. Wow, it can do this. So if I'm fearful and I feel like I'm somewhat in the know, I can imagine some of these people that, hey, we're bringing in this new tool and it's going to have AI in it. Immediate fear comes in. And the goal there is to just tell them, hey, look, we're just trying to make it an improvement. We're going to help you out, and this is how. Communication, communication, communication. So just kind of show you, this is Nutrien Workflow. This is how we do it. We have the document-centric approach. It's built for citizen developers. For us, is what we do. We've been around since 2001, and it's evolved where we do it to make it, you can be a programmer or not a programmer, drag and drop. And then I always like to say exceptional support, because on the customer success team, I look at it and I tell people all the time, hey, we're going to be so close. We're going to help you out. I'm going to be on your Christmas card list. That's how close and how fun we're going to have with this. And I love to see that evolution of the customer where, hey, I don't really know you, to first time I see you, we're not shaking hands, we're hugging, because I'm in this with you. We want to make sure that we're there for you. And as a company, there's nothing that makes me happier than to see the evolution of where you started to where you're going, and full adoption. So really excited about that. If you want to learn more, our contact information is here, as well as you can get it from the hosts. But that's all I really have. Really appreciate the time, the opportunity. If anybody has any specific questions, love to hear all about it. Thank you.
Tom, thank you so much, first of all. That was really insightful. I really appreciate that. And honestly, I really love how much you also focusing on communication. I think that is really the key. I think that can solve like so
Yes.
many problems so much quicker, right? Just focusing on communication. I really appreciate that. And yes, you're right. We have a couple of questions coming in, and so we kind of connected them and just came up with three main questions that I would run by you, just to give you like an idea of what the audience might think. So the first question, very interesting towards what you just discussed, is like, how does automating document workflows actually help improve efficiency in a business overall? We touched on a couple of things, but would you mind just give us kind of a summary of all you discussed today?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Uh, One of the things that I see that happens a lot is when you have documents that come in, if somebody has to
Yeah,
dual entry, or you're touching that document multiple times, you'd be amazed at how many times you get an oops. And I say oops because it's, hey, I've mistyped something in there. And if that doesn't get checked, or somebody just doesn't think about it, sometimes, especially if you're talking about financial documents, the farther it gets down, by the time it gets cost, that can turn around and cause a lot of different problems right there. In addition to, hey, now we have to cause more work that somebody has to go back and fix it. But the more that you can automate those things where, hey, the document goes in at one point, and then a person doesn't have to do anything other than, let me just scan this to make sure everything's good. I don't need to re-enter the documentation that's already in there. It's doing it for me, and you automated
right,
that. What that does is twofold. One, it makes it much more efficient. Somebody's spending time, a lot less time typing, and they're um, verifying the information that's in there. And the other part of that is a
right.
lot less opportunity for an oops. And nobody intentionally means to,
That's right.
mistype or put a zero on something, but it happens. We're all human, and life happens.
Yeah.
Utilizing the tools that we have out there
No,
helps everything.
yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. I just had a little bad reception here. But yeah, you're totally spot on, by the way. I think the more cooks you have in the kitchen, the more can happen at the end of the day, right? When it comes to like moving it from one place to the next, right? So I'm automating this process, making sure you have less oops. I like that, by the way. Take that with me. I like that. So yes, the less will happen, right? So negatively. So great segue, by the way, into the second question, which is I think always a huge topic, right? Security. So what security measures should businesses consider when automating document workflows?
Yeah,
Good question.
that's a great question, because we get asked about this almost every time. And
Yeah,
what we've done with this is we've actually given our customers a couple different options, where if you want to
right,
have like GovCon compliance, or if you want to even keep it on premise, we have certain customers who are like, hey, this needs to be on premise. We're going to take care of that security wise. Hey, you handle your security. We understand where it needs to go. But the other nice part is that with a document workflow solution like what we have, everything is audited. So you have a date timestamp for every single thing that's been done in there. Every time that you have security compliance questions, we have it, and permissions based. That's the big piece, is that we can't spend enough time with our customers, admins, to say, look, let us explain what the security aspects look like here. You're going to get the right permissions, the right roles, understanding who needs to see what. Because right now, is it as secure when people say, oh, we're going to track something through an Excel spreadsheet or an email, or even we still have a customer where they used to track things in an office envelope. So we've seen it all. And by utilizing, a tool similar like what we have, you can document that. And I can't tell you how many times that our customers have come back to us and say, hey, our auditors love the fact that we use you guys now, because it makes an audit so much simpler, because anything they want to see, everything's date timestamp, and they can come back to that. And you can always, the data doesn't lie. And that's the best part about it.
100%. No, I really agree. That's really funny you say that because I mean I have a tech background myself, by the way, right? So I'm still working in sales and business development myself with different tech companies, and that always comes up, right? So when it comes to security, I used to work for a security company, so we always had this kind of touch point. So interesting is we touched on that a little bit when you talk about the oops, right? So the third question is how can automating document workflows help with reducing human error? So we talked about the oops, right? So, but do you have maybe a specific example that you can give us based on your own experience of what might happen if you do not have something like that implemented?
100%. I could tell you about an instance that we had just 2 weeks ago with a customer,
Oh, wow.
and
Okay.
they are a defense contractor, and
Mm,
the instance that they were talking about is actually a capital expenditure. So this is
right.
a certain purchase that's over a certain level of things. And what happens is they put in the purchase rec, and this was at this time the individual was just typing all the information in, and instead of choosing the correct vendor, they chose a different vendor as to where that purchase was coming from.
Oh,
When they
wow.
chose that incorrect vendor, got through the system because somebody didn't realize, like, oh, they knew what they were doing. Instead of just selecting from the list, they typed it all out, and they went out to make this purchase. The purchasing rec went out to make the purchase. They weren't
Yeah.
set up as a vendor. They were actually a competitor of who they were trying to. So now that individual, that company was just exposed to say, oh, wait, we didn't know you did business with them. Now we know you do business with them. You're looking for this price because you gave us
Oh,
the
wow.
price. So you almost exposed part of your price book to one of your competitors. So you can imagine
Wow.
the brushback, pushback, what happened there. So right away, what came to us
Yeah.
is, hey, how do we prevent that in the future? So what we've done for
Yeah.
us is instead of making that a typed in box, now it's just a search field where they can go out, search their field, and it comes back, pulls in that vendor information so that you can't have one of those oops where somebody just, hey, I'm
Yeah.
making the assumption or I'm typing in this rather than that. And
Yeah.
it unfortunately for that company, it came in 2 weeks for in this instance, but moving forward,
Yeah.
it can't happen any longer.
Wow. I mean, that is kind of a big oops, to be honest. So that's
It's a
quite
huge
something. So
oops.
wow. Okay. Sorry. It's not even something you should laugh about, but I really appreciate you sharing it. But that is rough, especially for the
It is.
employee who basically set it up incorrectly, right? So at the end of the
Correct.
day, yes, you have maybe some technology coming in, but again, I see it as assisting your processes, right? Making your life easier, reducing those human errors. Because at the end of the day, you're going to look bad by just making those mistakes. And it happens to all of us, right? So how can we make sure to lower the chances of something like that happening? So I really appreciate that example. Thank you so much for that. And you're going to join us anyway, right? For the panel discussion, Tom. So you're going to stay with us for a
Yes.
little while. Right? So
Yep.
really appreciate that. Thanks so much, Tom, for your time so far. That was really great. I really appreciate it. Tom Martin, ladies and gentlemen, Director of Customer and Partner Success at Nutrient, our gold sponsor. And we're going to see you in a couple minutes.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Tom. Oh, Martin. Thank you, Tom. Really appreciate that. And guys, we're not stopping. We basically move on right away with the second keynote speech today. Also, very interesting topic, overcoming challenges in implementing workflow automation. And therefore, I would like to introduce and welcome Marianne Mwawai, Assistant Director, ICT of Kenya National Highways Authority. Very interesting. Marianne Mwai is a board member at the ISACA Kenya chapter in charge of special programs, and she's also the assistant director of ICT at the Kenya National Highways Authority. Wow, that's really impressive. She boasts of over 50 years of experience in the ICT arena. Her current portfolio entails ICT policy and procedures formulation and implementation, ICT security and infrastructure planning and operation, data privacy implementation. Wow, quite something. We definitely have to talk about that, Marianne. And she also coordinates the IT functions for the KINHA Board of Directors. Marianne holds a Master in Business Administration and Information Technology Management from the United States International University and a Bachelor of Science in Information Science and Technology from the same university, USIU. And Marianne has various certifications as well, including Quality Management System, QMS, ISO 9001 Lead Auditor, Information Security Management Systems, ISMS, ISO 27001, Implementor, Prince2, and among others. Mariam, what can I say? That's quite something. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really, really appreciate that. I can't wait to hear and listen to your presentation. And yeah, I hope you're well. How is everything? Oh, I
Very
think
well,
yeah.
thank you. Very
Oh,
well,
there she
thank you
is.
very much.
Of
Thank you
course,
very
impressive, Marianne. Very impressive. Nice
Thank you.
biography. Really appreciate that. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, you're also going to join us at the panel discussion as well at some point. But now the floor is yours. More than happy for your presentation.
Oh,
Here we go. Thank you.
thank you very much. Let me just share my presentation.
Yeah, sure. I'll let you know as soon as it comes up. Here we go. Yes, that looks great.
Yeah, and then kindly allow me to put off my camera as I present.
Sure. Yeah, you good.
Hmm.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much for having me here today. And can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, all good.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. So I'll be
Beautiful.
taking you
Thank
through overcoming the challenges of implementing workflow automation. So first of all, I'll begin with just a definition of exactly what workflows are. And these are, so why are workflows important? They're important so as to be able to enable operational efficiency, to eliminate repetitive manual tasks, improving collaboration, consistency, and quality control, and promotes accountability and transparency. And this really weaves in with the conversation that was there with the earlier presenter when he was talking about consistency and quality control and elimination of manual tasks. So what challenges are there when it comes to workflow implementation? First and foremost, there's managing the complexity of the process. Mapping and configuring intricate workflows with multiple steps can be very difficult, and this can be a source of errors. And errors then mean inefficiencies and bringing about bottlenecks, which you're eventually looking at eliminating. So what solutions are proposed for this? For this, we are looking at starting small, automating simple processes first, and then gradually scale up as you go. Then you're looking at modular design, breaking up workflows into simpler, smaller, and reusable components. You're looking at documenting the processes, clearly mapping out what the workflows are and automation of the same, so as to be able to identify redundancies. And documentation of the processes also makes maintenance of these processes so much easier, now that even if the person who originally came up with this, documented these processes is not there, then someone else can easily be able to pick it up. We are looking at integration with other systems, where you're looking at ensuring that the integration is simple. Integration is already a bottleneck on its own. And the impact of this, you're looking at data silos, you're looking at delays, you're looking at manual interventions of an already automated process. That means that begs the question, then why were you automating in the first place? So the solution for this is looking at utilizing of APIs and middleware. And this means that these support seamless integrations of various systems. And when you're bringing in APIs, you also need to consider web application filters so that you mitigate the risks that come with the use of APIs. You're looking at unified platforms, considering solutions that offer native integrations with your technology stack. Data mapping, you're ensuring that there's consistency of data right across the workflows. You're looking at the next bottleneck being scalability issues, where as the business grows, you want to be able to change these workflows to bring about more efficiency and things like that. But the thing is that without the systems, without workflows being scalable, then you're looking at degradation of the service really that you're looking at offering at the end of the day. That means that you need frequent reconfiguration. So what's the solution for this? You're looking at the solution being cloud-based solutions. You're looking to leverage on automation platforms. For flexible architecture being another solution, you're looking at exactly how the design of workflows can handle increased volume and complexity. We have periodic reviews, regular reviews to evaluate the efficiency of these workflows, optimization of these workflows, review of these workflows by a third party. And I think I will talk about assurance professionals a bit later on. The next thing would be user adoption as a challenge right through the process. At this point, this again was also brought up by an earlier presenter who talked about really resistance from employees. And why this why this comes about is because they don't understand what these workflows are. They don't understand why you're using workflows, and they see this bringing about workflows as a situation where you're coming to replace their jobs. So the impact of that is inconsistent execution of users, where users do not want to adopt workflows or understand how to use it. Basically, they just totally reject automation and the workflows that one would be trying to bring in. The solution for this would be training. Comprehensive training and comprehensive documentation of the entire processes. And then I think I would elevate this user involvement, bringing it before the training programs, because the users need to be involved from the beginning. They need to be involved as they're defining what their bottlenecks are, their issues are, where their inefficiencies are. They are the solutions should essentially come from them. So they should be involved right from the beginning, right through the design process, right to the end. You're also looking at user-friendly tools, where you would choose platforms with intuitive and low-code or no-code interfaces for the users. As simple interfaces as possible would be best. You're looking at also customization versus standardization, bringing about a balance between what the desired output is and what a standard workflow would look like. Why this is a challenge, what the impact of this is that over customization brings about maintenance headaches and rigidity in the workflow. So the solution for this would be more or less a hybrid approach, where you customize core workflows while maintaining standardized templates. You'd also be looking at configuration flexibility, use of platforms that support custom logic without heavy coding. You would also be looking at governance frameworks. These help. These are the implementation guidelines of when and how to customize workflows. Next one would be change management. This is resistance to workflow changes and disruption during implementation. The impact of this again is just resistance to change, confusion, operational disruptions, and such like situation. The solution for this is that there needs to be a change management plan. Even before we start automating, even before we start configuring the workflows, there needs to be a change management plan. And this makes sure that there's clear communication and rollout of strategy as the workflows are being implemented. We also have pilot testing. These are to validate automation through phased rollout solutions and user feedback. This also helps with my earlier point on training. It makes training much easier when you have the users involved right from the beginning. We also have leadership support. I mean, this is where the resources for automation come in, and the leadership support is very important for any automation to happen. So you're looking at securing executive buy-in and identifying champions who can then reinforce this change in if it's an organization, in each of the departments. and what have you. We have monitoring and optimization as the next challenge. The challenge would be tracking workflow performance and identifying areas for improvement. The impact of this is that if inefficiencies persist, if workflows are not continuously monitored and refined. Here you'd be looking at continual improvement, continual and continuous improvement. As a key point, where you're looking at establishing a cycle of analyzing and refining processes over and over again until you get to the efficiency levels that would be optimal. You would also be looking at key metrics where you're looking at tracking workflow KPIs to see whether you're achieving exactly what you set out to achieve. Is it completion time? Is it error rate? And things like that. You're also looking at performance dashboards, the use of real-time analytics for monitoring, automation help. We have governance and compliance as the next challenge, where you would be looking at are the workflows adhering to the regulatory and organizational policies that have been set out, and the impact of that. For non-compliance, then this would mean that the organization that is then exposed in various ways. This is where I said I would bring about the talk about assurance professionals, where you're talking about you need to have your risk people involved in the process. You need to have your auditors involved in the process as well. You need to have your leadership taken through some governance kind of training so that they do understand what this automation is and what the impact is, and the regulatory and the legal and regulatory framework that is there around the particular workflows and automation. You're talking about also error handling and exceptions, because no one is perfect at the end of the day. So when there's a deviation from exactly how the system is meant to be working, then how do we handle this? The impact would be process breakdowns, delays, exceptions if they're not handled properly. Errors and what have you, and the solution for that particular shortcoming would be error triggers within your system. Set up alerts for anomalies or failed tasks so that there's then someone who can come back and check right through. I like the talk that was there earlier about audit logs, about logging of information, and that would be an important thing to look at when you're looking at handling of exceptions. You're talking about that you need to have fallback procedures when designing workflows with exception handling paths. You're talking about having root cause analysis, where you then be looking at implementation of processes for continuous improvement after errors, and checking where these particular errors originated from. We have technology and vendor limitations. So when you're looking at this particular one, you would be looking at the constraints imposed by workflow automation tools. And the impact of this is reduced flexibility, delayed implementation, what workarounds can you have in place. And the solution for this is future fit. Evaluate your platforms. Evaluate your platforms and know what is out there, and see which fits you best, fits your organization best, which works best for you. You're looking at vendor support. When a vendor comes in and provides a solution for you, then how is their support? Are there community forums where you can also fall back on in case you need help and support in that case? You would also be looking at future proofing to see whether these particular system workflows are scalable. Are they adaptive, and do they evolve with your needs? With that, I want to thank you very much. And that is what I had for my presentation today.
Yeah, Marian, thank you so much, first of all. That's really interesting. I really appreciate your time and also presenting such great slides with so much insightful information on it. So that's really great. And we have a couple of questions actually that came in by the
Okay.
audience that I would run by you just to get your feedback on that and your insights.
Okay.
The first question, also very interesting, which is probably one of the most common questions that everybody gets asked, is what are the most common challenges businesses face when implementing workflow automation?
I think it's the users. I think the users are the
Okay.
that's the beginning and the ending of
Yeah.
where the problems and the solutions are. I think you need to bring the users along right from the beginning, because once you fail to do that, then I mean, there would be rejection of the system of whatever system you're bringing on board right from the beginning. So your users need to be there right from when you're defining what your problem is, right to the training of the users, right to definition of the processes, because again, we are automating processes that the users normally do. So they understand their processes best.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think Tom, we also, touched on that with Tom Martin earlier, that it comes to like implementing the right technology, obviously for employees can also reduce the human errors, right, that we all make, right? So everybody makes mistakes, obviously. So I think that's a very good point. Which now even gets me to the second question, which is why is it important to set clear goals before implementing workflow automation?
I mean, before setting any task, you need to know where you're headed to.
Yeah.
It is what defines where you're going. So
Right.
it is only when you know where your destination is when you'll be able to track to set the path there.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's exactly right. Without goals, you don't even know where to head to, right? You don't even have any navigation. So I think that's for businesses, but even in personal life. So, and the last question that just came in, which I think is also very interesting, how can small businesses actually benefit from workflow automation, or is it mainly for larger enterprise companies? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think workflows are for everyone.
Yeah.
Workflows would ensure that that even the most standard of procedures goes as efficiently as possible, and errors are eliminated. So workflows go always. Can be for small organizations, they can be for big organizations. They're there for everyone.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think also for small businesses, for startups, right, to keep it maybe lean at the beginning to be more efficient. Because for startups, it's actually probably more critical to be actually as efficient as possible, obviously. As you just, building out your company and having more people coming on board, it's probably even more interesting for them to have the right technology implemented. So I really appreciate your insights on that. Thanks again, Marianne. I'm going to see you back in a couple minutes anyway. You're going to join us for the panel discussion as well. Thank you so much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just taking a little break for just a tiny little minute. So we want to be right back. Thank you so much.
How to build an automated workflow. Use drag and drop features to add and arrange tasks. Automated workflows can be planned and designed visually to either copy or improve existing processes. This is done using software that includes pre-built tasks that can be arranged and connected as needed. No matter the complexity, you can automate your workflow. A workflow process can involve one simple request or include several different workflow tasks and approvals triggered by set business rules. Workflow automation provides several benefits over manual processes, such as policy compliance adherence, reduced approval cycles, improved visibility, improved employee satisfaction, and more. To help get you started with automation quickly, we offer over 50 pre-built workflow templates. These templates are free to download and can be imported into your Nutrient account. Nutrient automates critical work processes to make everyone more efficient and productive. For a full demonstration, visit our website and contact our sales team.
Yeah, thank you guys. And here we are. We are back, and now we're getting right into the panel discussion. And yeah, now we're going to talk about also very interesting topic, very interesting stuff, and future of workflow automation for businesses in 2025 and beyond. Trends that we can't afford to miss. So we really want to dive into the future a little bit more, just getting an idea, okay, what's up on the horizon, what is coming up next, right? And therefore, I would like to welcome back Timothy Rashkin, Digital Workplace Strategy and Director, Unisys Corporation. Thank you so much again, Timothy, for joining us. Also, Tom Martin, Director of Customer and Partner Success at Nutrient. Thank you so much, Tom, for coming back. Also, Marian, who just had her presentation, Marian Way, Assistant Director, ICT, Kenya National Highways Authority. And last but not least, I also would like to welcome now Susanna Burok, Principal Consultant, Workplace Strategy and Experience at Cynic Space. Thank you so much, Susanna, for joining us right now for the panel discussion. I really appreciate that. And guys, we have a lot of interesting questions, and I want to keep it very interactive, right? So I'm just going to read out the question, and then I basically just, have the first person joining and having a little chat about this. And then obviously all the other people can also join and just participate, obviously, and contribute to the question as well. I just want to make sure, Susanna, can you hear us? Can you see us? Just want to make sure she's on board. Just 1 second. Okay, she might join us in a second then, I guess. So therefore, let's just get started, guys. And then she's jumping in. As she's coming in, I'm gonna welcome her again. So the first question is, how do you guys see AI and machine learning shaping the future of workflow automation in the coming years? So Timothy, why don't we start with you? How do you see, obviously, what we discussed today, and you mentioned as well, 6 months from now, 12 months from now, it's going to be so much change. It's so fast paced right now. How do you see it, and what do you think is coming up in the next couple of years for us?
Yeah, it's, I don't think we can look at previous technology evolution curves as far as how explosive AI can be in the workforce. Yeah, it's, there's different layers of its ability, right, when it comes to augmenting frontline workers and helping them be more productive, whether it's about the information age that we're all in, and the fact that humans only can process so much. So how are we augmenting knowledge in our workforce and accelerating information, and driving insights on information? So this is kind of the real booster to where we are in the information age, in my mind. And again, how do we automate, and what's worth automating? So there's going to continue to be this gestation period in my mind about what's practical, as organizations bow in and bow out of the arena based on what they're able to come up with that has an ROI. So I think we still have a lot of shaking out to do of the tree of the real golden nuggets when it comes to the marketplace. But it does really come down to folks, in whatever industry it is, finding quickly what are the things that they can do that are legitimately practical for their business, that they can beat the competition with at the end of the day, and drive their workforce's productivity. And that's just going to keep evolving as technology is kind of growing, right? I mean, the OEMs, there's the data center. I mean, that's going to keep growing as well and keep introducing new ways that we can take advantage of it. But I think we're already in a period here where there's some practical things folks can think of if they haven't already. So, yeah.
No, you're spot on. I really appreciate you sharing that, because I feel like we have so much technology nowadays throwing at us, right? So sometimes it's so overwhelming, like social media almost nowadays, that you don't even know where to look at, where do you start, right? So
Yes.
Netflix, what show do you watch, right? So I totally get that. But I think it's very key and essential for companies to understand, okay, we have these kind of technologies available. This is something we can use, us specifically, with our infrastructure most efficiently right now for us moving forward, right? So there is no one
Absolutely.
solution per se for every company, right? So I totally agree. Marianne, also the same question to you. So how do you see AI and machine learning shaping the future of workflow automation in the next coming years?
I see more efficient processes happening. I see quicker analysis of large amounts of data. Coming from a government institution where you want to assess trends in large amounts of data, then AI just comes in. So it would be really handy. It would reduce also the amount of human labor that you would need to churn through such amounts of data, as well as increase efficiency, be more accurate, have things more time done in a shorter period of time. I also see more accurate kind of feedback from use of AI, and ease of compliance when it comes to utilization of AI in workflows. I also see easier risk management when utilizing these particular workflows, because I mean you can already pre-configure them into the systems, and so mitigation strategies would already be implemented in this particular system. So that's where I see AI taking us, and that's what I see as the future of AI here.
No, I really
workflows.
appreciate that. You basically touched on two very interesting points, like compliance and risk management, right? Which is very interesting. And remember, Tom, in your presentation, you even touched on that a little bit. So also wanted to give the question back to you, if you may be focusing on compliance and risk management, if you have any examples. So how do you feel like AI and machine learning is shaping the future of workflow automation in the coming years?
Yeah, I think actually the biggest place where we're going to see it is there's going to be less resistance to it. You know, right now, because it is so new, and end users, customers, even organizations are looking at it as, you know, us against AI. Even there's some resistance and hesitancy to grab it. I think as we evolve and we start utilizing and we start seeing, and you know, I don't want to say keeping up with the Joneses, but a lot of times it's going to be who's going to be that first customer that's really going to take advantage of it, and they're going to be able to see, you know, the benefits earlier than their competition, where their competition is also going to say, hey, we need to be doing whatever they're doing over there, and finding out that, because I really believe right now we're just at the beginning stages of it, and the resistance and the hesitancy to really evolve and grab it is slow. And I think 2 years from now, we're going to look back and it's, you know, the features and the utilization it's a good way that I put this out. And I had a customer and I discussed this with him, is 20 years ago, it was kind of online dating was, well, I met him online. I met him on this thing. You know, it was kind of like they didn't really want to talk about it,
That's
but
right.
that's where they did it. Now, you know, how many relationships are done that and it's just out in the open? I feel the same way is going to be happening with AI. You know, right now it's
Yeah.
kind of like that, well, we're using it, but not really. 2
Yeah.
years from now, I think it'll be completely changed.
100%. It's very interesting you say that. And yes, dating apps, I mean, obviously, I know so many people using them, right? But yes, I think in general, in life, I think people just have to get used to new stuff. It's like a human being behavior, right? And it's with anything in life. Think about social media at the beginning. Think about smartphones at the very beginning. It's all these things that we don't even think about anymore, right? And I think that the same will happen for us in the future with this kind of technology. So thank you so much for sharing. Tom, really appreciate that. The second question is also interesting. So how do you guys see automation improving the employee experience? I mean, we touched on that a couple of times already, but especially for tasks that are repetitive, right? So, Mariam, why don't we start with you today?
Okay. Reduced tedious work, really.
It's true.
What I mean, look at something like look at something like data entry that is so maintained. I mean, it adds no. You release these staff to be able to do tasks that are more that are more value adding to the organization, really. So you remove that mundane kind of and let them be creative, let them be strategic. You're also reducing, enhancing productivity and reducing human error. You're also boosting job satisfaction because, I mean, they spend much less time doing repetitive work. Improving compliance and accuracy, where you're looking at compliance. Again, you configure compliance into these systems so that it's easy. You don't have to think about it, so that everything you do just is already compliant. It makes it easier for, it also makes it easier for people to work from anywhere where they may be. Then they're not confined to a certain space, like where they would then be passing paper around. So I see those as the benefits to the staff, to the employees.
Yes, 100%. No, I really appreciate you saying that. I mean, we touched on a couple of things anyway, right? So as Tom said, like the oops, right? Obviously, making sure that we don't have a lot of oops coming up anymore. So I really appreciate that. It's a good one. But yes, actually, how are we going to communicate? How are we kind of like moving documents or any kind of paperwork, like from A to B, obviously, right? And we do a lot of stuff like with Dropbox or something like a Google Drive nowadays. But what else can we do, obviously, to improve the communication channels? But also, Timothy, I wanted to give that back to you as well. So how do you see automation improving the employee experience, specifically towards repetitive tasks?
Yeah, where do we begin? I guess would be my response first. I mean, to me, they kind of coalesce into like three main areas. One is going to be like Marianne said, like there's eliminating low value work, right? If there's things that can be done that maybe some macro wizard in the past would have come up with something useful in this particular spreadsheet, or you have to send out meeting notes, or all, these are things that we can utilize AI and generative AI capability to drive out low value add activity so folks can be much more strategic. About efficiency, right? Some folks may have to be in about 3 or 4 different places at once. We didn't invent coding yet, but we have generative AI now. So, and we have ways of recapping meetings, understanding, what are things that you need to urgently address. So there's these aids from a job function and organizational perspective. And I think one of the most interesting ones to me is we can be more analytical, right? And more decisive. There's so much data out there, like folks have said here. There's not enough time in the day to analyze all of it. And frankly, some folks don't necessarily have the skill set to analyze all of it in the most mathematical way we could. And so being able to utilize these capabilities through automation and AI in order to be more decisive and more informed about our decisions with the right kind of AI models just allows for better decision making to drive more value.
Yeah. No, 100%. Thanks so much for touching on that. I think, Tom, what you mentioned earlier really, like leads into what just also Timothy said. I think it's a lot about education too, right? And just mentoring, as we just discussed earlier, mentoring those people, but also educating them that they do not have to fear the technology coming up, right? So, Tom, maybe you want to also join us on that question as well, maybe having your insights. But I think that's a very valuable question, obviously, when it comes to those repetitive tasks and how to kind of make sure that what we can automate, we should automate, right? So
Right. No, it makes sense. And what both of them have said already is spot on.
Yeah.
Who wants to go to a job where you're doing the same thing over and over and over again when there's tools out there that can allow you to take that part of your job away and you can make
That's
more of
right.
an impactful spot somewhere else in the business. So as you see the evolution and when that happens at a customer, and especially with people that, I've been doing this for X amount of years, they're going to get burned out. I think
100%.
somebody referenced it earlier. How long are you going to go with that, that knee that bothers you until it finally is at that point where, I'm going to do something different. And in the
Yeah.
case of an employee, that doing something different might be looking or finding a different job because they don't want to continue to do something like that. And
That
after
is
they get
true.
past that initial fear of, hey, this is going to replace my job, when they can see, hey, this isn't replacing, this is making me or allowing me to be more of an impactful player at my organization. I think,
Yeah.
that light bulb goes on that we talked about before, and it's really, really
Yeah.
impactful. and it's fun to be a part of that journey with them too. So I think as we talked about the 2 years from now, 2 years from now, what many people's current day-to-day job looks like is going to have evolved quite a bit if they embrace the AI technology.
Yeah. No, but amen. Thanks for sharing. That is really insightful and it's actually spot on. I mean, at the end of the day, it is really like, okay, making sure people understand, and we touched on that, to assist the process, assist basically your workflow, making it more efficient, but also making sure that you can maybe free up some time to be even more involved within the company, doing even different tasks, learn more about the company, right? And again, it comes all down for me personally to education and also just guiding people the right way, making sure that they can lose that fear and overcome it. But Tom, as we just discussed, I would love to give you the third question straight away. So how will businesses need to adjust their workflows to accommodate, and now interesting, the growing trend of remote and hybrid work environments in the future? I think that's a very, very good question too, obviously, if you do not have everybody in the same office all the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. As we learned in 2020, things changed,
Yeah,
right? And
exactly.
many,
Yeah.
many people are still remote or hybrid or however they want to do it. So what is interesting to me and what I've seen is that as we've evolved, we have so many different communication tools. Many times our communication skills haven't evolved with the tools. So people don't want to follow back on those emails. How many times have you called somebody and they don't want to pick up the phone? I see kids nowadays, they can't carry on a conversation, but they can use their thumbs all day long.
That is so
So
true.
what AI allows them to do is, hey, let's evolve in this technology so that you don't need to do the communication yourselves. We have tools within these workflows that are going to make sure that the people that need to be informed are informed. And that's done through the workflow automatically, through the automation that we have set up, as well as embracing the AI tools to say, hey, here's a document that was sent through. Let me summarize this for you so that you can make informed decision moving forward.
No, you're spot on. It's so interesting you say that. Even in private life, sometimes I'm looking at young kids and I was like, oh my God, I feel like a grandpa. I feel like so old. It is interesting how they use technology so quickly, so early, right? Which shows you that they do not have the fear to just use it, right? That's the beauty about kids. They just jump on it and just try it out and see what it can do for them, which I think is a very valuable, mentality to keep a little bit. But Marianne, coming back to you as well, same question. And we touched on that a little bit as well, I think, in your presentation, when it comes to the growing trend of remote and hybrid workflow or work environment. So how do you feel about that moving forward?
For me, I think I would go to the tech side. Exactly how do we secure these particular systems, these particular applications, so that we do not, so that they're safe. Employing zero trust architecture, so that we are enabling remote access for users, so that they're able to work from anywhere where they are. So defining exactly who has which rights, exactly user access rights is basically what I'm talking about, and also use of multi-factor authentication just to verify exactly who one is saying they are is exactly who they are. I would also look at tracking employee engagement, so that you're able to then prevent burnout from the employee. And you're also looking at maintaining the company culture. So when you're talking about a certain efficiency level that the organization prides itself in, then that is maintained irrespective of where one is working from. Yeah, those I think are the biggest ones.
No, that's a very good one. And you said engagement, or engaging with the people that are not always in the office, right? And I think for me personally, when it comes to remote environments, it's all about trust, right? At the end of the day, the employees want to make sure they can trust management, the company, but also vice versa, right? So how do you make sure you implement this kind of communication and this understanding on both sides? So I really appreciate that. It's a very good one. Also, I would like to welcome now, I just see Susanna Burak is with us. Hello. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. Hi. Sorry. I'm
good.
Later than I expected. Nice to be here.
You made it. No, good. No, I really appreciate you joining us. So I'm not sure you probably followed a couple minutes already. We're already in a couple minutes. So, but as I'm having you right now, and I know you're going to have your own presentation at some point after the panel discussion, but I would love to give you the question as well now that we discussed right now, which is how will businesses need to adjust their workflows to accommodate the growing trend of remote and hybrid work environments in the future? So how do you feel about that based on your own experience?
Gosh, it's such a big question, and I think it's one
Yeah.
that companies are really challenged with at the moment. What does the future of work actually look like? You know, we've come out of a pandemic, which I know a lot of people say it was, you know, that seems like such a long time ago, but it had such a massive impact on how we
Mhm.
work, how we live, the mixture of the two, where we work. You know, I
That's
mean,
right.
one of the biggest questions coming out of especially sort of the corporate real estate world is, you know, how do we get people back into the office? This was the big question, right? You know, so, and then the second question comes in about like, you know, how do we have, you know, increased productivity of people? How do we
Yeah.
keep them engaged? How do we keep the best talent? You know, how do we fulfill sustainability requirements? So the whole ESG topic is becoming massive, especially in, you know, Europe and other locations. So, you know, there's a lot of plates to spin at the moment around the world of work. And trying to navigate through that, it can be kind of scary. So when we throw automation and automation into this whole mix, it's like, okay, so, you know, I think we can all see, and anybody who's, you know, used any kind of automation strategy can see immediately, wow, I get the answer so much quickly. But I heard some concerns, you know, that starts to create a lot of fear and panic within the organization to say, oh my God, you know, am I going to be replaced? What does world look like? So when I talk about the world of work, I mean, I think the important thing is to take it, look at it, and start to develop some sort of a strategy around it.
Yeah.
And the strategy could be not only like, what do we want to do as an organization? I mean, getting clear on that. How are we going to be implementing AI? How do we, you know, keep our best people and also keep the best employee experience? So that requires
Yeah.
a lot of change management and training. And then looking at how do we then, you know, because it's a behavioral thing, you know, people are used to behaving in a certain way, working in a
That's
certain
right.
way. So some of those tedious tasks are in fact somebody's job, you know?
Mhm.
So how do we then manage this in a very informed way to take people from where we are today to where we want to be? But understanding what those key North Stars are is probably the first step in
That's
trying
right.
to develop a very informed strategy. But I'll get into more of that when
Yeah,
we.
of course, of course. No, but I really appreciate you touched on something very interesting, I think, and we briefly touched on that too, is human behavior, right?
Yeah.
Since the pandemic, to be honest, 2020, I feel like nowadays, even when we're just talking about a couple of years, people now got used to having this kind of quote unquote freedom to now work from any place, and they have the expectation to keep it like that. So talk about from a real estate perspective. Oh my God, how can we keep the lease? How can we make sure that offices still keep the buildings and stuff like that if people now expect them like to work from anywhere, right? So I even heard about Airbnb, for example, do not have any offices anymore. They're completely remote now. So it's just one of these examples, right? So, but I totally agree. I think it has to be this combination of how do you make sure that you kind of like set the expectations straight with the employees, but at the same time implementing the right technology to accommodate that, right? To make sure that it's almost kind of lined up. So what we're going to talk about that in your presentation a little bit more into detail anyway. But also, Timothy, last but not least, also wanted to give the question back to you.
Yeah.
So what is your take on the future of
Yeah.
remote and hybrid work environments, specifically with this kind of technology?
Yeah, I would say there's been a lot of great feedback so far. And if I just kind of visualize that in my own head, one of the things, two main things. The first one would be, considering workers are everywhere now, on the ground, hybrid, on the go, it's all about experience parity, right? We want people to
Yeah.
maintain their productivity level and engage with their peers
Yeah.
effectively, regardless of where they are. And one of the best examples of behavior plus technology in my mind is in the meeting room, right? I mean, I think we've all seen like the memes or whatever. It's like you've got a bunch of people looking at like a whiteboard out in the corner and they're writing on it, and then you've got a bunch
Yeah.
of people on the conference call that have no clue what the heck they're doing. And we probably all experienced that. So how do we help from a behavioral perspective with the folks on the ground to make sure they're engaging everybody? And also, is the technology there to allow them to do it, right? There's been significant advancements in some of our typical kind of collaboration platforms around virtual whiteboarding and different things like that. So how do we help people understand the ways to do that so they can participate in some sort of even way? And one other thing that we haven't quite talked about is, because of things like the hybrid work, remote working, all of our teams have gotten more and more global, right? I mean, there's so much work that needs to be done on the ground, on the supply chain floor, in the office, but there's more and more work that's going into the cloud of people, right? In my mind. And so, being able to cross barriers from a language perspective and otherwise becomes just more and more critical. Well, and how can we again bring workflow automation, AI capabilities to help bridge more natural gaps that we have in the course of human history, really across the planet as we continue to just grow more globally. So I think there's those pieces too. We'll continue to see advancements around technology to really facilitate this kind of global and hybrid framework we're all operating in for the most part now. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, guys. That was already the panel discussion. Yes, Suzanne, I know it was a little short for you, but I really appreciate you still made it. No, that was great. It was really great because we're looking really forward to your presentation now. But first of all, I want to say thank you so much for everybody joining the panel. Thanks so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule. So first of all, I want to say thank you to Timothy Rashkin. Again, thank you so much for participating. Digital Workplace Strategy Director, Unisys Corporation. See you soon. Would be great to have you back on board at some point. Also want to say thank you. Of course. Okay, that's a yes. And also wanted to say thank you to Tom Martin, Director of Customer and Partner Success at Nutrien, our gold sponsor. Thank you so much, Tom, for your very valuable insights. Keep in touch. I'm pretty sure I see you soon as well.
Definitely.
And thank you, sir. And I also want to say thank you to Marianne White, Assistant Director, ICT Kenya National Highways Authority. Thank you so much, Marianne, also to you. Really appreciate the insights. And I think you guys obviously can connect even afterwards, right? I mean, Susanna, obviously, if you want to connect, more than happy, right? But thanks, guys. Please, you can stay online. You can enjoy the conversation and presentation by Susanna if you want. If not, I wish you a great day, a great week, and talk to you soon. See you soon. Thank you, guys. And now, thank you. And now I wanted to, last but not least, here she is, Susanna Burok. I'd like to welcome her back, and she is the Principal Consultant Workplace Strategy and Experience at Cynic Space, my best. And Susanna Burok collaborates with corporate leaders, architects, and workplace strategists to design environments that enhance business performance, employee well-being, and adaptability. As a workplace consultant at Cynic Space, she aligns workplace strategy, technology, and design to meet evolving organizational objectives and workforce expectations. You see, there we go. Talk about the expectations again. And with expertise in automation, healthy building strategies, and employee experience, Susanna employs a research-driven and practical approach to workplace transformation. Her certifications in WELL and LEED Green Associate and training in mental health first aid underscore her commitment to sustainability, wellness, and inclusivity. As a speaker and advisor, Susanna provides insights into the future of workplace strategy, and the impact of automation. So, I mean, it's interesting. She offers even practical guidance to help organizations create the environments where both people and businesses thrive. So that's really awesome. We definitely have to talk about the remote and hybrid situation again. And recognizing the complexities of today's work landscape, she emphasizes strategic, human-centric solutions, very important, that foster resilience and success in an ever-evolving environment. Susanna, thank you so much for being back. We touched on these things a little bit already in the last questions that we discussed. So I really appreciate that we dive a little bit more into this kind of workplace environment and how to create this kind of very comfortable feeling for employees nowadays, like moving forward, obviously coming out of the pandemic, and how we can still implement the right technology, right? So without further ado, the floor is yours. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to it. Here we go.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and that was quite an introduction. Thank you very much.
Of course, that was, I mean, I gave it all I had.
Great. Well, what I actually have is a PowerPoint presentation, which I realize
Yeah.
is probably a little bit out of date, but that's okay. We're gonna do a little bit of old school PowerPoint presentation
No
sharing.
worries.
So give me a second and
Yeah, take your
please
time, you got
let me know when you see my screen.
Yes, yes, it's coming up. There we go.
Okay, great. So thank you again. I think we need to start off by asking ourselves some question. So we talked about a lot about automation and efficiency. What if automation isn't just about efficiency, but it's actually a key to a happier and more engaged workforce? And I think you did, from what I heard, I did join the session a little bit earlier, so I did hear some of the presentations where they were touching on this. But let's think about how automation actually can help us to be much more happier and engaged. What if the future of automation isn't just about replacing people, but unlocking their full potential? Also, some topics which I heard earlier from my co-presenters' presentations. And what if the real power of automation lies not just in the technology, but how workplace design enables people to thrive? So we talked a lot about culture, we talked a lot about people and how automation hopefully can make people's lives a lot easier. But what kind of spaces do we actually need to be creating to actually support these types of new ways of working? I thought we'd start off a little bit by looking at the evolution of work from the industrial age right through to today. There's been a lot of change. But it's overall an evolution from more manual labor to more intelligent work, and it's growing more and more that you need much more flexible, efficient, and human-centric experiences. It's about the people and about keeping those people. So when we talk about the challenge, I think I heard some of my co-presenters mentioning this. There's a lot of uncertainty around this topic, a lot of fear, and this is causing some issues. There's also a lot of skill gaps. So people realize that, maybe they don't know so much about automation. And a lot of people are hearing that if they don't learn about this, they're going to be left behind. So that needs to be addressed. We also need to think about how this is going to create inequality. So those people that have access to automation are likely going to thrive, where others that may not have access to that for whatever reason or another, it could be their job position, could be their location, or it could be actually where they are in terms of their overall income, there is a risk of them being left behind. So already it's a very wide gap in the employment market. So is this going to continue to grow? I think it's really important to address that. I heard this also from some of my other co-presenters about burnout or disconnection. It's really important to keep tabs on what's going on in terms of overall engagement and well-being. It's likely that with automation, there could be some increased risk of some health issues. And as I mentioned in the panel discussion, right now, a lot of companies don't really have a clear automation strategy. How are they going to really address this in terms of how they're going to deal with it as a company, and also how humans and AI are going to collaborate together? So, and I think it's really important, and I heard this again, is we really need to see automation as an enabler, not a replacement of human jobs. It really is about creating a better work environment, a better outcome. There's some examples here. I'm happy to share this presentation as well afterwards. There's some references which you can look at just to sort of see whether this resonates with you or not. We talked about elimination of mundane tasks. AI also tends to personalize work, and it also has been shown to enhance productivity. And when you remove some of those mundane, jobs, it actually hopefully will create environments where people are much more efficient. They feel like they have a better sense of purpose. They can really find their way, and hopefully a better sense of well-being. And then for those of you who have heard me speaking before around neurodiversity in the workplace, hopefully it makes my work and working much more inclusive in terms of accessibility and collaboration. And again, it's really important to consider these. When we look at the key takeaway here, I think the message is that the expectation is AI and automation will enhance human roles, unlock creativity, and hopefully make work much more fun and fulfilling. But as we said before, there's a lack of awareness and understanding, and this is creating resistance and job security concerns. I mentioned this before around skill gaps. Is the workforce ready? In terms of integration, there's outdated infrastructure that's in place, siloed data, siloed decision-making. This is causing a slower or more of a delay in terms of implementation. So what is the key takeaway here? The successful AI adoption really requires, again, a strategy around education, employee buy-in, reskilling, and infrastructure modernization. So we talked a little bit about behavior. When we look at certain behavioral models of change, I won't get into too much of the psychology, but there is a very clear behavioral model of change that we can adopt here. It's really about creating a higher adoption rate by guiding people through the change. People need to understand, why is this happening? How does this affect me? How can I use these tools to thrive? How can my workplace be designed to better facilitate these changes? Because I think a lot of our workplaces have been built way before automation was even a topic. So how do our workplaces actually need to change in terms of their design and how they work day to day? This is requiring that it's going to need leadership buy-in, and it's going to require a much clearer plan to be put in place. So comprehensive change management and informed workplace design are absolutely critical for success. So what can we see if we do this right? Hopefully in doing this right, we can have a better understanding of how this is going to create a very clear return on our investment. So in terms of employee benefits, they're going to stay relevant. There's going to reduce job insecurity. You're going to lose less talent. And also you're going to educate your talent to be future ready. Therefore, your business will be future ready. This is going to reduce costs and turnover, boost productivity, and hopefully foster innovation to make you much more competitive in this increasingly competitive market, which is, as rightly said, very global. So it's not just about looking at your neighbor next door, what is he doing compared to me? It's really about competing on a global scale. Some examples there around how an informed transition strategy is actually boosting retention rates. Also, clear automation strategy really creates a much more transparent culture, and this reduces resistance and hopefully eases transition. This is avoiding wasted investments, hopefully making your company much more efficient and aligning them with business goals, which, as I said earlier, the business goals and the business drivers are changing on a daily basis. So making sure that it's aligned with current goals is quite important. So the future of work is automated, but is your workplace actually future ready? So we're going to talk a little bit here, and hopefully not too long, because I don't see the time. So hopefully if I'm going over time, you can let me know. Human centricity is actually really important, which seems like a bit of an oxymoron when you talk about automation and humans, but at the end of the day, humans are the engine and the success to your business. Hopefully we're not replacing ourselves completely with automation. There still will be a need for humans to be involved. And I think even when we see in these early days of automation, there still are mistakes that happen. So humans definitely need to be involved in the decision on whether to stay or go, or whatever needs to be done based on your research. So having a clear human-centric strategy in workplace design is really important. So this is important because AI risks being seen as a disruptive force rather than an enabler of human potential. So if we align AI with employee experience, we're hopefully going to reduce some of the stress, some of the loss of talent, and hopefully reduce the friction points to improve workflows and support well-being. We also want to have smart offices that are AI driven, hopefully to create healthier, more productive and engaging spaces. And hopefully, as a tool, using AI as a tool to be much more inclusive and have a healthier, happier workforce. And this can be done through improved accessibility. It could be done through sensors. It could be done through a number of different ways. Also, strategic change management, having clear communication, reskilling programs. I know I keep probably repeating myself, but I think it's really important to emphasize these points. This hopefully helps to build trust and therefore will hopefully create much more efficient adoption rates. So there's some different examples of how AI can help to reduce absenteeism, how they can make more inclusive workplaces for neurodiverse individuals, reduce costs and administrative burdens, improve work-life balance. And so when it's a human-first, workplace integrated and strategically designed strategy, we hopefully will be creating workplaces and work environments that are not being replaced by AI, but hopefully enhancing the overall workplace experience and productivity. Having a human-centric workplace design is key, so it's important for workplace employee engagement, higher productivity and satisfaction, developing a stronger workplace structure, and hopefully, again, creating a much more adaptable solution. So it isn't just about efficiency. It's about creating a powerful tool for developing healthier, more inclusive and human-centric workspaces. So I know that was very quick, but here's some key takeaways. Hopefully AI is going to be seen as enhancing human roles. Think about what our life was like before the internet. I mean, it's changed the way we've worked, the way we live. This is going to take it to a completely other level in terms of how we work, and also hopefully creating more and new jobs. It really requires a clear education, employee buy-in, reskilling, and really modernizing your infrastructure. Change management and informed workplace design are critical for the success of automation in the workplace. And it succeeds when it's a human-first strategy. It's important that when you put these strategies into place, that you're thinking about how it's going to impact the humans that are working for you and also within specific environments. Again, it's not about just efficiency, it's about creating a powerful tool for healthier, more inclusive and human-centric workplaces. And this will hopefully lead to higher engagement, better well-being, greater adoption, and this, I hope, will create a much more beneficial scenario for the company and its employees. So just asking yourself some questions. Again, we started off with some questions. We're going to end off with some questions. Does your company have a human-centric automation strategy in place? What factors do you need to consider in order to have a better facilitation and a higher adoption rate? What factors need to be considered in terms of the actual workplace itself? Is the workplace still necessary? If so, for what reasons? What are the critical reasons why people would come into an office? It's probably around social, it's probably around engagement, it's probably around brand identity, and it's probably also around being able to focus better and collaborate better. So there's a lot of reasons why the workplace is still very relevant. So my final statement is, let's create a workplace, whether that's at home, whether that's in an office, where automation enhances human potential, fosters engagement, and drives success together. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to any questions you might have. Okay, wonderful. Hi, Benjamin.
Hey.
Looking forward to any questions there might be from the
Yes,
audience.
back. I just had like my reception was just gone for a minute here. But yes, we have one great question that I would like to share, and I would like to open that up a little bit more towards the remote and hybrid work experience as well. So that's definitely something that I feel like a lot of people had a lot of questions for. So the question is, what role will automation play in shaping the future of work? And I would really like to take it to the next level, talking about the hybrid and also remote work experience, if you don't mind, because I know you're like a professional, you're like a pro when it comes to that. And that will be the question. That will be really interesting.
So, just so that I'm clear, the question is around how will automation impact the future of work, specifically looking at remote, hybrid work, and coming into the office. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure that I
Yeah, I
understand.
mean, in general, but then also would be great to get your insights also, like, how do you feel like personally, what should be like maybe implemented technology-wise for the future of remote work / hybrid work?
Oh gosh, I mean, I'll answer the first part of the question, and I think, at the end of the day, technology is here to stay. It's not going
Yeah.
away. It's going to be a part of our lives in ways that we probably can't even fathom at the moment.
Yes.
I think we're really at the beginning of, especially a lot of companies are at the beginning of their journey. Some of them are much more progressed than others. But at the end of the day, it's going to change our lives. And I think again, if we go back to the presentation, if we always think about humans at the center of what we do, whether it's developing a workplace, looking at a hybrid strategy, looking at, anything, to be honest with you, how can we be developing cultures and organizations and also strategies that are much more aligned to human needs? And I think automation will help us to support these things for the reasons why I mentioned in the presentation around creating, removing mundane tasks, developing options for much more collaboration, innovation, to also be able to work from anywhere, which can create a much healthier work-life balance. And all of those things are great. But again, according to human behavior is probably the most difficult thing to change. So technology is moving at light speed, but
right.
human behavior is not. And so we still need to remember that the way that we are programmed back from millions of years of evolution, I think we really need to understand what is it about us that makes us human versus technology.
100%.
So looking at reasons why we need to be getting together. So maybe, and I'm just putting it out there, our workplaces are less about sitting there working on a presentation, doing emails, all of these other things. Maybe actually these spaces are places where we come together and we actually realize what makes us human versus what we have to do for our quote unquote work day. So I have a feeling that there's going to be a larger evolution towards social collaboration, creativity, and also retreat, and having areas for wellness. So sometimes we can get overloaded too much with technology. So actually having these spaces where people can come together and maybe the technology gets left at the door, it's a tech-free zone, for example. Maybe these are spaces where actually our offices need to be going into, and all of those things that can be done with technology, maybe that needs to be done somewhere else, and home could be one of them.
I agree, though. Thank you so much for summarizing that, by the way. I think the contrast is very important, right? So I think by talking about so much technology nowadays, like looking into the future, we shouldn't also not lose this human component, because at the end of the day, we're still human beings, right? We still want to interact with each other. But how can we leverage, can we really complement, obviously, this kind of experience that we want to have among people with technology that will come up anyway, but how can we make sure that we keep this kind of interaction as foundation by implementing the right technology? So I really appreciate that. Thanks so much for sharing us the presentation. I would love to have you back on board. That would be great. So this is basically our last presenter, right? That was awesome. Thanks so much for the beautiful ending here right now. So guys, if you want to get in touch with Susanna, please do. This is Susanna Bura, Principal Consultant, Workplace Strategy and Experience at Synnex Place. And it was, or Cynic Space, sorry, I always say place, Cynic Space. And it was so great to have you on board, Susanna. Please join us again soon. And we're definitely going to connect online anyway. And guys, that was it. I know,
Thank you.
it went by so fast, but I hope you enjoyed the journey with us. It was really nice to have everybody on board. And before we come to an end, I also want to say thank you again to our gold sponsor, Nutrient. Without them, that wouldn't be possible. But also, Group Futurista has a series of upcoming events scheduled that we want to invite you for. And the next one is the Future of XDR for Businesses Virtual Summit on April 17th, 2025, obviously. And also the Future of Digital Forensics for Businesses Virtual Summit, MENA edition, 21st of May, 2025. It would be great to see you back there. Thank you so much for joining, guys. I'm your host and moderator, Benjamin Schnau. Keep in touch, connect online, and I see you soon. Bye-bye.